Okay, here we are in the Facebook ads scaling lesson. And in this one, I want to just talk about scaling strategies. All right, I'm not actually going to look at any specific ads or examples. This is stuff that I have been sharing at masterminds for a long time. It's strategies that I know work. And they are based on your preference, right? So you're going to see as we go through this, but this should help give you a solid understanding of scaling ads and figuring out the different strategies that are out there that can work for you to be able to take a winner and start selling more products. So it's important to understand, number one, that not every product can be scaled, and not every product is meant to be a big winner. There's different scaling strategies based on both budget and audience. They're all good to have in your arsenal because testing with different types of winners can be more effective than others, right? So different scaling strategies might work better for different types of products or for your ad account versus another person's ad account based on your risk tolerance versus another person's risk tolerance. But no matter what, it's important to remember that you cannot force a market to buy more of a product than it actually wants, right? Some people think as soon as they get a sale, that means that they've got this big winner on their hands and they're about to make thousands of dollars, millions of dollars, whatever. And of course, obviously, look, there's nothing wrong with being excited and hoping that every product can scale to big numbers, but the reality is that that's just not the case, right? You're going to have, say you define a winning product as a product that makes more than 50 sales, right? So more than 50 sales profitably, all right? Um, that could be a winning product because it's profitable, right? So if you're selling $100 product and you make 50 sales, you made $5,000. If the product costs you, say, $30 to fulfill and you're getting sales for $20, then you're getting like a 30% margin on that, right? So you made $3,000. That's a winning product. But maybe it's not doesn't have a big audience, right? Maybe it caps out around $5,000, $10,000 in sales, and that's it. And then some products maybe you can scale to 100,000 or a few $100,000, and then there may be like one product out of every 100 winners that you have that you can scale to $1 million. Okay, so there's different levels of winning products, and it's just important to understand that again, it's no emotion. You just have to base it on the numbers, and you'll see where as you start to try to raise the budget on a product or on a campaigns like you're not ever going to be able to force the market to buy more than what it really wants. So if it's buying and your scaling costs are good, then you can keep scaling. But if all of your numbers start to hit the yellow and the red really early on in your scaling process, then don't try to force a product that can't be scaled larger. Okay. So the Facebook learning phase, just quickly, you can read this information on Facebook, but I just want to talk about this because it does affect scaling. The idea is that your ad is put through a learning phase where Facebook is understanding the best audience to target with your with whatever it is you're marketing. Okay, and at that learning phase, in order for you to graduate from the learning phase into optimization, you need to be getting 50 conversions a week. If you're not getting 50 conversions a week, then that means it's not optimized, right? And the idea about being optimized is that it should be better for scale because your cost per acquisition should either be level or start to drop based on Facebook really narrowing in that optimization and starting to know exactly who your target customer is. Now, that's all based on the assumption of the demand in the market, right? Because as soon as the demand starts to dry up for what you're selling, then your cost per acquisition is going to start going right back up because you're going to have trouble finding more buyers. All right. So the idea here is that in order to be getting your 50 conversions a week, obviously during testing, you're not going to be getting 50 conversions a week, and that's why numbers can fluctuate a lot. And you'll see people I see sometimes they'll be like, I got a purchase here and a purchase there, but it's just not it's not like staying consistent. Why is that? Well, the reason that it might not be staying consistent is because you're not optimized yet, right? And so Facebook is still out there trying to hit all these different pockets of audiences to find out what is the best one. All right. So the idea of how you can get optimized is if you are getting sales, you can look at what is that average cost per purchase. And I need 50 conversions a week. So if I'm getting an average cost per purchase of $10, I know I need 500 conversions per week in that ad set for this to be optimized. I'm sorry, not you need 50 conversions, right? So if I'm getting an average cost of $10, then I know I need to spend $500 per week to get my 50 conversions. So you then can take that to divide by 7 to figure out what your cost would, or I'm sorry, what your daily budget would need to be, which would be right around $70 to $75, somewhere in there, right? So then you could set your daily budget at $75 on that ad set, and then hopefully you would be hitting your 50 conversions a week to be optimized and start scaling. That's the idea of the Facebook learning phase. Now, numbers that I like to see before scaling, right? Numbers to give you an indication that you can scale. Your cost per purchase, of course, should be profitable, and that should be profitable to at least 5 sales on an ad set. All right, for me. Some people might scale earlier, but I want to see at least 5 sales on an ad set that are returning a profitable return on ad spend. And if I'm judging a campaign, then I want to see multiple sales across a bunch of ad sets, right? Not just one ad set. To determine the success overall of a campaign, I would like to see multiple ad sets having sales. I want to see my cost per click less than $1 generally on that ad set, right? There are a few exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, I want to see cost per click under $1. I want to see my cost per impressions under $20, and I like to see my my click-through rate 1% or higher. But at the end of the day, the cost per purchase is the magic number. All right, so I'm scaling based on my cost per purchase and that red light, green light, yellow light that I showed you back 2 lessons ago. Okay, so as long as I'm in the green light on my cost per purchase, I'm going to be scaling no matter what. But the other numbers are what I do like to see. Okay, because the more in alignment that they all are, the more it's like all signs go for scaling a good winner. A higher daily budget does not always mean more conversions. That is important to remember, okay? Just because you are getting sales at $10 a day and you jump the budget to $20 a day doesn't mean you're going to start getting more purchases, all right? Important to remember, it's about finding a sweet spot, and the sweet spot is going to vary based on the product, based on the offer, based on the audience. So, 3 ways to scale, all right, that I'm going to cover: by budget, by campaign budget optimization, and by expansion. Scaling by budget for me has to do with the ad set. All right, so these are ad set level scaling techniques that I've used. Scaling by campaign budget optimization is introducing the new idea of scaling at the campaign level with your budget, because that's a newer concept. And then scaling by expansion we'll talk about when we get there. So scaling strategy 1, budget increase. This is a beginner level. Generally, it's considered a beginner level, but there's also like a more advanced level to this that I'm going to talk about. So definitely recommended for new accounts, and you're going to be increasing your daily budget in steady increments over time. Now, I have a beginner example here, and this is what it would look like, right? So you start your ad set at $5. And then based on the success of that ad set within the first 2 days, like getting good indications of, a sale and good indications of clicks, because you're probably, if you start your ad set at $5, in 2 days, you're going to have spent $10, right? You're probably not going to have multiple sales, okay? But if you have one sale and you have good click-through rate and good clicks, then you might as well scale it, because you're going to have to put more money in to see if you're getting more sales. It doesn't mean that you're going to get more sales, but you need to at least see if putting more money in is going to help you start to scale this. So 2 days later, increasing it to $10, and then now you're going to start to be able to see from there, because once you're at $10 a day, over the next 2 days, you'll spend $10, $20. And so if you're continuing to get sales in this point and it's profitable and you're still getting, good clicks and all of these other things, then I'm going to scale again in 2 days to $20, right? I'm doubling the budget because we're still at small numbers here. 5 to 10 is a double, but you're only talking about a $5 increase, right? 10 to 20 is a double, but again, it's a small increase, okay, overall. And then I say time frame locked in here. Basically, the thing with scaling gradually is you're training your algorithm, because what Facebook does at the beginning of every 24-hour period, based on your time zone of when you created your ad account, is it's going to look at your budget and it's going to create it's going to set its algorithm to spread your budget evenly across that day to get as many conversions or get as many results as possible for your budget. So you generally want to be scaling at the same time, because that's going to lock in the algorithm into like a system, I guess, a system of the way that you're scaling this. So you can see how the rest of it goes. Once I get to $20, you're just increasing $10 every 2 days, increasing $10 until you get to the point at $50 where it starts to make sense to increase by 20% budget instead, because 20% starts to become bigger, and 20% is Facebook's recommended budget scale for this type of scaling. All right, so then I would keep doing that every 2 days, 20%, 20%, 20%. This is a longer, more gradual process, but it's less risk, and it's good for beginners to get familiar with Facebook ads. And you would just keep scaling until you found your sweet spot. Your sweet spot is going to be when, like, you're going to notice with your cost per purchase as you start to scale. Is it staying the same? Is it starting to get more expensive? Red light, green light, yellow light, right? Now this is an advanced version of that, okay? And recommended only for hot selling products, right? So as an advanced example, if you start an ad set at $10 and it's selling hot right away, like you launch an ad set for $10 and for me, so I guess my personal opinion on what would be hot, I launch an ad set for $10. I have 2 to 3 sales like within that first before I even get to the $10, I've had 2 sales, okay? And I have great clicks and I'm getting great engagement on the ad. Then I might jump it to $20 the same day, depending on how much time is left in the day, right? Because if it's an idea just that I want to give more money to the budget to go out and find more people. It seems like Facebook has already locked in on an audience. It seems like this is a great offer for this audience. Then by just giving more fuel to the fire, you should be able to start adding more purchases right away. So if it's selling hot, jump to $20 that same day. If it's selling a little slower, like I'm still getting great engagement and I've had, say, like 2 purchases on that first day, but it took all the way till the end of the day, then I'll just wait till the next day, but I'm still going to jump the budget, okay? Now at $20, if things continue and I'm getting multiple purchases within that $20 on that next day, or even within that same day, next day in the morning, I'm going to double the budget to $40. All right, and now I'm monitoring the sales. If the cost per purchase jumps high, as soon as I double the budget, then I'm going to bring the budget right back down, right? This is the risk here, and that's why it's a more advanced strategy, because it's not always going to work. But if the next day in the morning I double my budget and my cost per purchase remains the same, and I keep getting consistent sales at that same cost per purchase as I'm spending this money, then that's fantastic. Next day I'm going to double the budget again. All right, and I would just keep doing that, but I'm keep monitoring my sales to see, and you're going to see your cost per purchase might rise. So maybe it's doing amazing at $40, and then the next day I jump it to $80, and my cost per purchase, I'm still getting purchases, but say I was getting them at $5, and now it just jumped to $7. I'm going to slow my roll a little bit there, unless I still have a really big profit margin left. But if that $2 jump brings me a lot closer to my target cost per acquisition, I'm going to slow my roll on doubling that budget the next day because it's giving me a good indication that maybe I'm starting to close in on the sweet spot of I should be where I should be scaling this ad set. Because remember, this is just one ad set, right? You might be running 8 ad sets, okay? And we didn't even get to the point of talking about lookalikes and creating new ad sets yet. So this is just on your original ad sets, and you're going to be wanting to find sweet spots, okay? It's not always about a big budget on one ad set. It can be about a lot of ad sets running sweet spot budgets and bringing consistent sales collectively. Automated rules. Using automated rules in scaling can be very effective for time management, all right, because it allows you to just set up a rule that will monitor your ad sets for you. So, for example, this is one that will increase your daily budget by 20%, like we talked about in the beginner level, without you having to actually go in and do it every single time. All right, so this is how you would set it up. Apply to, and you can see this right inside the, I don't have the ads manager open. You can see this right inside the ads manager itself. You'll see where you can create a rule, and then the way I have it set up is exactly how you would set it up inside there. So you would apply to all active ad sets. Action would be to increase the daily budget by 20%. The action frequency would be once daily. Condition, this is always the default, okay? Lifetime impressions greater than 8,000. Condition 2, ad set has minimum 2 purchases, all right? So this lets you know that the ad set has to at least have purchases. And then condition 3 keeps your target cost per purchase where you want it to be. So cost per purchase under $10, time range lasts 3 days, scheduled daily. So this means it's going to run daily, and it's going to look at the last 3 days of data, and as long as my cost per purchase is under $10, I have more than 2 purchases, and my impressions are high enough, it will increase my budget 20% every day. Once I get to the point where my cost per purchase has reached $10, then it will stop this rule. Okay, and it'll just continue to sit there. So you would want to set your cost per purchase at not necessarily your break-even point. You would want to set it before that, right? You would want to set it at a point where you're comfortable if it reaches that you're still making money. That way the rule would turn off and your ad would just sit there and you'd be running profitably. You can also create stop-loss rules, okay? Stop-loss being like a term from stock trading, right, where you set a stop loss to make sure that you don't lose money. So this action is turn off ad sets, right? And the condition is lifetime impressions, same thing by default. And the second condition, much more simple, is if your cost per purchase goes above $10 is the example here, but basically it'd be whatever your threshold cost per purchase is. So as soon as it hits above that, the time range, looking within the last 3 days, then it's going to turn off the ad sets, right? So that you could set as a way to make sure that you're not going to be spending money at a loss. Strategy number 2, which Facebook seems to want to phase out, but this has always been kind of the most popular e-commerce scaling strategy, and that's duplicating ad sets. This allows you to jump budgets more quickly on clear winners, and here's the idea. So example, if you start an ad at $10, over the first 2 to 3 days, you're getting great sales of, let's say in the first 3 days you have, remember, I like to see 5 sales. So let's say in the first 3 days you have 5 sales, okay, $6 cost per purchase. Then you can duplicate 5 new ad sets from that same exact ad set at $20 a day. So basically doubling the budget, and you're not changing anything. You're just duplicating the ad set, because if you have the strategy and the idea here is that if you have an ad set of say 8 million people in it, right? And you're running this ad set to 8 million people, and already within the first 3 days you're getting really good sales indication, then you know that this is a huge audience and there's a lot more people in here. And so to scale into this audience more quickly, you can create multiple duplications of the same ad set. So Facebook is just going to go out now and start finding more people within that same audience that are most likely to purchase. It's a way to start covering more ground in a much quicker way. But it doesn't always work. Okay, so what you would do then, you would keep the original running, right? Because in the event that all 5 don't work, you would turn them all off and go back to the original, and then I would just use scaling strategy number 1 to scale the original. Okay, but if when you duplicate them, you're going to be looking for the winning ad sets. Hopefully, a few of those ad sets, because basically the idea here, right, again, is that this is a winning audience that is reacting well to this product. So if I duplicate more ad sets into the same audience, I should be able to find more winning pockets of people ready to buy. And so you're duplicating it to give yourself more chances. And you're going to find the ones that perform, and the ones that don't, you'll turn those off quickly, especially as you start duplicating the higher budgets, right? Because you can see the strategy here is that you just keep duplicating until you find a sweet spot of total ad sets versus total budget. So I would keep duplicating. And once you have ad sets working at the next higher level, right? So say I duplicate here to 5 new ad sets and 3 of them start getting sales right away and are looking really good. Okay, fantastic. I would let both of these run for 2 days. As long as these prove consistent, then I'm going to turn off the original and I'll let these keep running. Now I'll take each of these ad sets and duplicate them again and at a higher budget and repeat the same strategy. As long as the ad sets keep getting sales, I'm going to keep them running and turn off the original. If they're not getting sales, then I'm going to turn them off and just go back to the ones that I already had, right? And you can see that it just goes until you find a sweet spot. You're going to know the sweet spot because your cost per purchase is going to keep increasing. Generally, right? If it doesn't, then that's fantastic. But generally, as you go from say $20 to $50, your ad sets at the duplicated $50 a day level might be getting sales, but they might be getting sales at a higher cost per purchase. So again, it's all about that target acquisition cost. If you're starting to close in on your target acquisition and getting closer to it as you're duplicating the higher budgets, then you want to stop duplicating, right? Because if you keep duplicating, you're going to force it to not work. It's going to become not profitable because you forced it. So instead, look for that sweet spot within your target acquisition, and then keep it there. And you could always duplicate out more ad sets at the existing budget just to cover more ground, right? So if I find that $50 a day is the sweet spot here, I don't need to duplicate to $100 a day necessarily. I could duplicate 5 new ad sets at $50 a day again, and just have a lot of ad sets running at $50 a day, and then just let them run and keep them consistent. Scaling strategy number 3 is called manual bidding. This is now basically considered lowest cost with bid cap. This is the highest risk type of scaling because it requires constant monitoring, and it's something that allows you to take winning ad sets and have more control. So what you can do here is take your winning ad sets from any campaign, right? So say you have a few ad sets that are doing well in your testing phase and you want to scale hard and quickly. You could take all of those ad sets, combine them into one ad set, all right? One big ad set together, because you know they're all winning ad sets, okay? So you combine them all into one ad set together, and then you set a bid cap at 3 times whatever your cost per purchase was. So say you're going to average it out, right? So you had 3 ad sets, that one was getting $8, one was getting $10, one was getting $9 for simple purposes. So take a $9 average cost per purchase, set your bid cap for 3 times. So you'd set it for $27. Set your daily budget at least 10 times your bid, okay? If the bigger the audience, the higher you should jump right away, really, because you can monitor it. I mean, it does require constant monitoring so you don't lose money, but chances are you're going to be watching it closely. So you could say $27 and then you set your daily budget for $500, right? at least 500. You should, especially if the audience turns out to be like 20 million people. You could set it for $1,000 right off the bat, and then watch very closely as you turn this ad set on. Okay, if you're not getting traffic at your cost per purchase, then you want to raise your bid. Okay, so you could raise your bid by $1 because you can raise your bids in real time with this method, and Facebook will either start sending you traffic or not sending you traffic. So if you are not getting traffic, then it means your bid's not high enough. If you are getting traffic, but you're getting traffic at like too much traffic at once, then you can lower your bid. Okay. Generally, the idea here is that in the beginning, when you're running it, I mean, so here's okay. Because it's an auction-based system, the way that Facebook works is it's only supposed to charge you whatever the minimum cost was to convert that sale. So even the point of bidding so much higher is because you're bullying the auction. Okay, you're basically coming in and saying, I'm going to spend more to win this auction, and then you win the auction, and Facebook is only going to charge you whatever your true conversion cost was. That's in theory the way it's supposed to work, okay? But you need to watch it closely because sometimes Facebook is crazy and it's just going to start charging you really high cost per purchase. If it is charging you a higher cost per purchase, you can start bringing your bid down. But you also need to understand on a new campaign like this that 50 conversions is your target to optimize, right? You need 50 conversions to hit the learning phase. So what you want to have this set to a 1-day or a 1-day window, right? Not the 7-day. You want to have this set to a 1-day window because you want to be optimizing off of people that are purchasing that day. Once you hit 50 conversions, okay, then your CPP should level out. It should drop. In fact, I know some people that run this and they will run at a high cost per purchase just so they can hit the 50 conversions because they know once they hit the 50 conversions, it's going to be a lot more stable. All right. So this is an advanced thing, and it's going to require some testing and some tweaking. But this is the basic strategy of how you would run this. It's just all about your risk tolerance, and if you really want to sit there and watch your ads all day. I have used this before and it can work really well. I still have a Facebook video on YouTube using this strategy from before, but personally I find that I don't like it as much, just as the lifestyle of how I am as an advertiser and entrepreneur. It's just not my style to sit in front of a computer and watch my bids all day. So that'll be completely up to you if you want to try this or not, but this strategy can certainly bring you into big numbers very quickly if you have a large enough audience and you have enough data to prove that these are winning ad sets you're combining together. Now, scaling by campaign budget optimization, which is still basically scaling by budget, but it's different because you're not scaling at the ad set level anymore. I already talked about what campaign budget optimization is. It's when instead of putting the budget at the ad set, you're putting the budget at the campaign. So it changes the way that you would scale, all right? Here's what it would look like. All right, you would take the winning ad sets you had from your test campaign, okay? And this is from your initial test, right? Just like your $5, $10 budgets that you're testing, but you would want to have enough data, right, to prove that these were actual winning ad sets. So you would take your winning ad sets and you would create 2 new CBO conversion campaigns. Both of them would be optimized for purchase, and you're split testing the ad creative basically at this level. So the reason that this is good to do here, even though you have these winning ad sets, is because now when you're creating this campaign budget optimization, you're like moving into a phase where Facebook has a lot of control on where it's optimizing. So you want to make sure you're going with the best ad set before you start, or the best creative before you start to scale. So you can split test the ad creative or just split test the thumbnail or something. $100 budget on both conversion campaigns. This is a $100 budget set at the campaign level, right? So you would have multiple ad sets, and you would have the $100 set here that it would be splitting it across these. Okay, and then you're finding a winner. All right, whichever one wins. I mean, chances are they're not both going to win. If they both do win, then that's fantastic. But you're looking really for the winner out of the two of them, and then you're going to duplicate it into conversion CBO campaigns for regions. Now, this is if you're scaling into regions, right? So if you're scaling in the regions, you can do top countries in the rest of the world. If you're only selling into like the US, or you're only selling into the top 5 countries or something, then you can just keep them all together. But if you are scaling worldwide, this is where I would separate them out here to where you think your best performers are versus just the other areas you want to test, and duplicate it. And then you're going to be monitoring your ad sets, because you can still turn off ad sets. The thing is, you can't control the budget on the ad sets, but if you find an ad set that's not performing versus the others that are, you can turn off the ad set that's not performing. And then now that you have your winning conversion, your winning CBO campaigns running, now I would just move to a budget increase to continue scaling them. This will be updated more as I don't know that I would recommend this yet. You might want to play around with this idea as you start to find winning products and winning ad sets, because it is moving towards campaign budget optimization, but this will be updated as we get closer with some more evidence and more experience to back it, because it's still a fairly new strategy. Now, scaling by expansion is different than budget, because this is where we start to find new audiences to reach into a test. All right. So, scaling by expansion, number one is worldwide targeting. Few different ways. We kind of already talked about this, but you can scale massive worldwide targeting, where you just set worldwide and then exclude all countries or continents you don't want to target. You could do countries by campaign, or you could do world regions. Personally, I like doing world regions, okay, when I go to scale into worldwide targeting. Then I use the ones that you're looking at there. So generally, I start by targeting top tier. What I mean by that is like top tier e-packet countries. And then if it's a product that's doing really well, I will also scale into the world regions, okay? Lookalike audiences is the main one for expansion. This is where you are going to create a lot of your money, is in the lookalike audiences. So some of the ways that you can create lookalike audiences are on the video views. So you can use video views, custom engagement audiences. I showed you what those were earlier, to create lookalikes from your campaigns. I'm going to cover this specifically as a strategy, but you can create lookalikes for also your main events, like view content. Well, you should. Let me rephrase that. Definitely create lookalikes for your main events, view content, add to cart, initiate checkout, add payment info, purchase. Okay. You can, now you need at least 100 events per to actually create a lookalike from the custom event. But basically what you're going to want to do is set up a custom audience for each one of these based on the product ID, based on the conversion event. So you'll take your product ID, you'll take your conversion event, and then you'll set up your audience, all right? And then once your audience has enough conversion events, at least 100, you can go in and select that audience to create a lookalike. Okay. When you create the lookalike, you're going to do it by region and country. And so you might be creating lookalikes only in the US, or maybe in worldwide regions, or maybe in the top tier countries. Again, that's up to you, but you can have multiple options here. I mean, if you're selling drop ship products that can be shipped around the world, then you could have lookalike for each one of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 purchase event or conversion events. You could be doing that from 1 to 10%, which would be 10 times 5. So you would have 50 audiences here. And then if you're scaling into the 3 worldwide regions we talked about here, that's 150 conversion, or that's 150 lookalike audiences for you to test, right? So that's a lot of audiences, and that's where you can start to really build up a lot of audiences that can help you. You know, you launch a bunch of, they're not all going to work, right? But you launch a bunch of these audiences on a top performing product, and you launch it at small budgets. You turn off the ones that aren't, right? We use the same ad set principle for all of them. You turn off the ones that aren't, and then you scale the ones that do, and you could end up with a lot of ad sets running that are all bringing in profitable sales. And final expansion is interest, placements, and objectives. All right, I talked about this a little bit in the audience section, where interest and objective can help you reach different people, but taking your best converting interest, of course, then you can put them in the audience insights to find new interests. Placements is when you can start, based on where you're testing, but you can start scaling out into new placements. You can run desktop, right column, messenger, Instagram. And then objective is when you have been running an ad for a while, and maybe it's starting to reach, like it's dying down. You could start scaling into different objectives like add to cart and initiate checkout, because they might start bringing you a whole new set of results from people that you hadn't reached yet. Okay, because when Facebook looks at your objective, it's going to look at that as different people that might convert differently, so it will reach different pockets of the same audience. All right, all of these together are, you use them together. You know, you use budget in coordination with these versions as well, because once you start launching your lookalikes, right, based on the lookalikes that perform, you're going to want to scale them somehow. So you might be duplicating ad sets with all your lookalikes. So you can see how it'll start to become a lot of work and very time intensive to really scale. And there's automation softwares out there like Ad Espresso, RevealBot, and things that will help you scale and monitor your ads better. But it's up to you how you want to do that. So once you start scaling these, for example, right, if you start scaling all your conversion events into different regions on percentages 1 to 10, now you start duplicating the best performing ones, you can end up with hundreds of ad sets on a winning product. All right. Now that's on a winning product that's doing really, really well. You're only going to start taking these moves and making all of these extra audiences if the original testing is profitable and showing good signs. And if it is, then you can start branching out into all these other audiences. Scaling factors, frequency. High frequency means you should change to creative because people have been seeing it over and over and over again. So keep it fresh, rotate in a new creative. And relevance score, I don't really care about as much, but if your relevance score starts to drop again, you should change your creative, because it's probably just from people getting tired of seeing the same thing. And like I already said, not every product is going to be able to scale to big budgets. That's why it's not always about the budget. It's about the amount of audiences. All right. And some audiences will be smaller. Some products will just cap out based on demand. So don't try to force something that's like, if you're at a profitable ROI and you try to force it too hard, you might end up killing it and making it unprofitable. Okay, so all of these things go together, and the scaling video was actually shorter than the testing because scaling is not as difficult if you know how to test your product. If you have a good product that's selling well, it's not all that difficult to scale it to a certain level, right? I'm not going to make it so, like, managing big budgets and high spend is a whole different thing. Okay, and that's not what this free training is for, right? That's a different level of education. That's a different level that you have to invest in if you want to start talking about spending high budgets and high scale. And that's why Ecom Empires has different levels of education. This is a free course. This is meant to give you what you need to get the six-figure months, okay? And scaling to six-figure months, you have everything you need within these strategies to start doing that. And then scaling higher than that doesn't, I would say, in my experience working with people and talking with people and from my own spending, that I think it's not necessarily about a difference too much in strategy. It's just about understanding performance. It's about understanding how to manage spend. It's about understanding how to manage all your creatives and how to manage a full campaign and really understand what you're doing at a level of performance marketing, right? So that's why for higher level training, I have somebody that's coming in to add as well with millions of dollars of spend under his belt, right? Millions of dollars of spend and really high spend on certain days and months that he's been able to effectively manage a lot of money. It's it's organization. You have to have a certain mind for it to be able to run ads at that high a level and spend that much. So that's why that will be included, and there will also be an opportunity for anybody within the academy to invest in higher education to be able to take it to the next level if you want to. But this is definitely enough from what we've covered to get you to 5 and 6 figure months. And to be able to do 7 figure years, of course, as well. So that's everything for this. In the last video for Facebook ads, we're going to wrap up by talking about a cool strategy with video marketing. I will see you in the next video.